Alright, it's been a day since Star Wars Jedi Survivor has been released, and I felt like giving a first impressions video already because I am having a lot of positive vibes so far, and I was not expecting that, so let's discuss it in today's video. Hello, it's Irad, and so today we are going to talk about Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It went out today. I've already tried it for a couple of hours and I'm loving it so far, and that already is a surprise because, to be perfectly honest with you guys, I wasn't very fond of the first game. I'm sure it was visually very impressive, but quite frankly I found it boring from the start to the finish. I was not interested in a story, which I found too cliché, was just too predictable. I was not interested in the worlds we visited, which I found rather uninspiring, except perhaps for Dathomir. I couldn't care less for the Zetho or the second sister. I mean, I found most of the combat also repetitive, and I really didn't like the puzzles, which is something that it's never been my cup of tea. I'm the Eradicator after all. So, as you can tell by now, I was a bit reluctant to spend $70 on a game that is a sequel to a title that felt more like a drag than anything else. I thought that makes perhaps a quick video and then get a refund, but no, that is definitely not going to be the case, and so I wanted to also thank my Patreons and YouTube members for making this video possible, because quite frankly, I don't think that without their financial support, I would have even bought Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So if you're considering supporting the channel, well, this is the difference that you are making. It really is helping me put out more content for you guys on the channel. So, what changed? What makes me so thrilled about Star Wars Jedi Survivor when I was reluctant to play Jedi Fallen Order? Well, here are a few reasons. Now, the first one was the start of the game. You aren't starting on some planned remote junkyard as a weak, untrained apprentice. You're starting at the heart of the Empire as a renowned badass hero, and that already is much more exciting. On top of that, I've always been fascinated by this world and how it evolved throughout the reign of the Galactic Empire. Plus, we get to explore some of the underlevels of the city, which is an awesome nod to Star Wars 1313, the Boba Fett game that we never got to see, and that too contributes to making me excited about the story already. Speaking of the story, I also like the characters, which are not all black or all white, and it was true in the previous games, sort of, but it's even more true in this one, where you can sometimes see the dark side calling to Cal, the hero, or also you see some of the antagonists justifying their actions with reasons that do sound legit once you put aside their corrupt actions, and it is in the end what really something that strengthened my desire to see the hero prevail in his cause, because I ended up hoping that he could be successful in pulling the antagonists to the light. As far as the game mechanics go, well, they're pretty much still the same, with a lot of jumping and force usage and lightsaber slashing, but I noticed that they are interrupted far more by narrative elements, either dialogues or cutscenes, and it really here, in my opinion, breaks the repetitiveness of the combat or traversal phases, and I really like that too. One new element that makes this possible is the introduction of a new companion mechanics, which to me makes a huge difference. In the previous game, Cal was doing his business alone, and to me it really contributed to this sense of boredom that kept on growing as I was progressing throughout the story. Here, Cal is progressing throughout his adventures with allies who help you, but whom must also be protected, and this interaction is rather stimulating, especially when it is punctuated by dialogues. Cal is not talking to himself, or it's not a holocron of a dead person who talks to him, but an actual character who is here on the same journey, and it makes a whole difference. Then, let's talk about the graphics and performance, because there's been a lot of talk about how Star Wars Jedi Survivor performs, especially at the start on Coruscant, and yes, frames per second are lower, but I think it's because of the design choice here by the developers. Coruscant is a planet-wide city with a ton of things going on. And here, I think that the devs here have done an amazing job at representing this aspect with lights, animation, traffic, and of course, faithfully representing such a world comes at a cost performance-wise. Now, I see a lot of people complaining about that. I will not complain about it because, you know, guys, that I regularly cover Star Citizen, so I am used to such design choices. But I can understand that for a game published by Electronic Arts, taking such a risk, that is designing an environment that is going to drop performance because of how rich it is not something that we see all too often. I also personally like it very much. I would have actually prefer being immersed in a mind-blowing environment that will cost me some frames per second over a bland environment that's rather boring but will perform perfectly fine. So there we have it, guys. These are my first impressions of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I am genuinely liking the experience much more than the original game. I think that the developer and Electronic Arts here saw from the first game that there is a demand for such titles, and they have learned from the previous one about what worked and what could be improved, and they spent a lot of time developing this sequel, which really took its time because very often you see sequels coming 2 or 3 years after the previous game, but here it's been 4 years since Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and I think that it shows with all the details and the narrative that we can see really being omnipresent as we play, which does add some replayability as well, as very often we do miss some Easter eggs or elements of the plot when we play a game like this for the first time. With that comes the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, you know what to do. A big shout out as always to my channel backers who made this video possible, including Dr. Forbin, Zeo Crusher, Wolfpack Pug, Deplorable Infidel. I've been Irad. I will talk to you guys later.